I put something out, the information was informative. Yeah, I had a chicken on my head, but I tell you what, I've been to meetings when I go, you know, like the chicken on your head, didn't you? You knew who I was because you'd saw something, it put a smile on your face, made you laugh. That is what young people are good at. They're good at being unique. They're good at putting an authentic turn on things where they can connect. There are young people that are lazy, but take away young people, there are people that are lazy.
Welcome back to another episode of RecTalk. I'm your host, Nitin Sharma, founder and CEO of RecTools.io. For those of you who don't know, you should do by now, RecTools is the only whole-of-market directory of all the recruitment supply chain that's available to you for your talent acquisition team or your recruitment business. So whatever you're looking for, new CRM, new ATS, a new marketing outsource business, someone to build your website, someone to do your payroll for you, someone to finance your invoicing, do your back office, your front office, your middle office, whatever it might be, RecTools.io. I don't ask you to log in. I don't know who you are. I don't care who you are. Don't sell your data. Do your research, make your shortlist, and then get in touch with them directly yourselves. They pay me to talk about them and to feature on the podcast from time to time to plug their stuff. That's enough about me plugging my stuff. I'm pleased to welcome back. I'm going to say for the first time as just you and me, because you've been a couple of times in a past life of what RecTalk used to be.
Yeah, and then the panel.
And then the panel, yeah, you're on the panel as well.
Round table one, was it?
I miss those round tables. I just haven't got the space for right now. But my guest today is Paul Nightingale from Juniper Apprenticeships, and a whole range of other stuff which we're going to dig into and talk about today. So first of all, dude, thank you so much.
No, it's one of them. I met you early on in my recruitment days, so it's nice to still be in touch, dip back in, and yeah, thanks for having me back.
Mate, honestly, before we get cracking, mate, I want to give you your flowers because, look, I ran a recruitment agency for 7.5 years. Obviously, during that time, that's when we met. When we were hiring apprentices, and looking at that. You supplied a couple of people to us during that time. What you're doing for young people and in terms of breaking down the barrier to entry into recruitment, which I always say that the barrier to entry is already low. But for a lot of businesses, it's you've got to be a graduate and or you've got to be part of a former sports team or some bullshit like that, right?
It's conflicting. It's like there's this, you need to be a graduate, you need to be an academic, but then you meet anybody that's run a successful business within the recruitment sector, and they'll sit there and they'll go to you, I just fell into it. I just came about. It was an opportunity. It was character, personality. So it's almost like there's a mentality around ideology, but then the reality of success within an industry. That's
recruitment in general, right? That's our sector in general. We have this ideology of what things should be like, but then the reality is different, right? I expect every candidate to answer their phone when I call them. However, as a business owner, if any of my team answered their personal phones during working hours, they're in a meeting with me asking me telling them what the hell do you think you're doing. There's a disconnect, but I want to give you your flowers for that because actually what you're doing and the way you're going about doing it is not only obviously kind of groundbreaking in terms of I love the video, I love the content, I love the fact that you're passionate about it, but actually you're giving a lot of good people an opportunity to move into an industry that can and will change their lives. I remember before I moved into recruitment, I was heavily in debt, overdrawn all the time, credit card debts, loans, all the rest of it. And by the end of my third year in recruitment, I was finally, for the first time in my life, in a position where I had money in the bank. A surplus of money in the bank. Do you know what I mean?
That it can be fruitful. I think the massive thing is we're in a generation of young people where people are making money from social media. Recruitment is ever more prominent to be about personal branding. It doesn't really matter anymore about the company that's behind you because you are your own profile, and that's why people are bouncing from desk to desk and people have become kind of hot property in the industry. It's because their personal brand's solid. You've got young people that constantly, they're doing socials, running multiple channels, Insta, TikTok, getting viral views for being them. And that character, that personality and that branding, it's a sweet spot in the industry. It's nurtured.
That's the bit, absolutely, and that's the bit I think a lot of recruitment business owners are struggling to get their head around. Like the one thing that I really dislike at the moment is that Gen Alpha and Gen Z are being branded as lazy, right? There was a post that I commented on literally last night by a rec called Josh Harrison, who was really laying in on you want work from home, you want to do this, you want to walk your dog, you want, all these little perks and you haven't earned them, you haven't earned your stripes and you don't know what you're doing. And he had been responding to everybody with some level of comment, but he didn't. I don't think he had anything to say. But when I said to him, look, it's an interesting viewpoint that you think that Gen Alpha and Gen Z are lazy because they, they're not working in the way that these business owners want them to. But you don't see the business owners as lazy for not being able to figure out how to motivate these people and to talk to them in the way that they want it. Do you know what I mean?
I don't think people want to anymore. I think people's too broad. There's certain individuals within an industry who want something for nothing, and companies will talk about young people and say they're lazy, they want something for nothing. But actually, if you look at well,
the business owners also want something for nothing.
They want someone to
I want you to graft for me. I want you to come in and do your 40 hours plus a week for me. I want you in the office at 8, leaving at 6. I want you working for your lunch. I want you answering emails and text messages in the evening. Okay, but what am I getting for that? Well, you're learning.
Yeah.
You got to earn. And like, well, no. And also, what you were motivated by, i.e., the commissions and the money, isn't necessarily what this generation are motivated by, because a lot of them haven't got hopes and aspirations of buying their first house or second or third home. They haven't got aspirations of buying a nice fancy car or got a Rolex watch or whatever. That's just not what they're motivated by. They want social purpose.
Yeah.
They want to know that they're making a difference.
Added value.
And they want creative freedom.
Yeah. And this is the thing, you drop somebody in a space from younger generations, they're going to have ideas that have been formed by living in the now.
In today, yeah.
Not when businesses were built. And like, you look at successful businesses, you have to give preps to these owners. They've built something, they've been successful. But success is only as good as the now. And it's a weird thing. I put a post out earlier. I'm big into like podcasts and psychology and stuff like that. And it was this whole reframing thing about how do we measure success? And it's like, I think old school is trajectory. And it measures on keep going up and up until you get this pinnacle point. And then you go, fuck me, self-actualization, I'm done, look at me. But actually, achievements is small things. You could do things along the way that are successful, but just because you're not doing that anymore, it doesn't define how successful you are as a person. And I think that's the shift. Young people aren't necessarily looking for that continued trajectory. They're looking for reward, they're looking for achievement, they're looking for purpose. And I think
they've grown up in this world, right, where they get minor kind of dopamine hits, if you want to call them that, or sort of claps along the way, right? They celebrate small wins and little successes along the way.
But they have to though.
The world that they've grown up in has been gamified, right? And that's what they operate in. We didn't grow up in that world, so we struggle to kind of relate to that. But the other side of it is we also struggle to relate to people that these guys can make friends purely online with people across the other side of the planet, and they're not just friends. I mean, deep embedded relationships with people who they've never even met, let alone spoken to on the phone or whatever, right? These guys are very quick at building tribe and community. These are real core skill sets that you could use as a recruitment business for outbound and outreach, right? But no, I'm going to get an automated AI agent to send a massive spam and shit out because I think that's going to work. You got somebody who sat next to you, he or she doesn't necessarily want to get on the phone, but that person's incredibly good at reaching an audience that you're struggling to reach. Why not tap into that? Why not learn something from the younger generation?
But it's that whole thing, isn't it? I think, like, for me, when I started out in this industry, my background's always been education, and I got told by so many people earlier on, but you're not going to penetrate this market by doing what you're doing. Like, it's a bit too, like, out there, it's a bit too different, it's a bit too kind of leaning into humour and stuff like that. And initially, I found myself going, I need to stop this. And then I just thought, sod it. Because actually the spaces I'm going to get into by doing this are the places where I should be. And that's what young people do. They do things that enables them to occupy a space that they want to be in.
That's it.
Not what they think they should. Whereas my generation, it's we spoke just about change of mindset when you kind of hit 35 and as you get older and stuff like that. young people's mindset are changing earlier, and they're no longer trying to get into spaces where maybe they think they should be, but they don't belong.
They acknowledge imposter syndrome a lot quicker than what we do.
Yeah.
You know, and they're able to tap into their anxieties and be like, I'm not comfortable in this situation. I need to remove myself from this situation. We didn't do that. We still struggle to do that.
I think the analogy for me is like there's that saying it now about, oh, you think outside the box, you think outside the box. Now I know, like I've said to you, like I was diagnosed neurodivergent in my 30s, had no idea I had ADHD, let alone autism. But I look back now and I spent my life constantly trying to get inside the metaphorical box. Yeah. But every time I got there, I was just banging against this glass wall.
Yeah, it was uncomfortable. I was the same.
But I kept trying to get in.
And you would have been called the same things. And people listen to this who have got ADHD or suspect they've got it, you get called, oh, you're a maverick.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, you're always going against the grain, you are. Oh, you know, oh, no, can't you just...
Daydreamer, lazy.
Yeah, lazy. You know, can't you just stick to one thing, stick to the path? And you're kind of like, I'm the problem. I'm the problem. Until but then you go searching for your tribe, your people, your community, right? The reason what you did worked so well and works so well, and the reason what I'm doing works so well for me is because I only do business with people that I like.
It aligns with you.
And they like what I'm about. I would never, ever manage to do business with a corporate type. Never. And I don't want to. You look at those who've claimed their pages that come on the podcast, all the rest of it. There's no bullhorn. There's no access group. There's no big players coming on here and talk, because they're not. We're not aligned. All the ones that are out there that are doing work with me and stuff are the ones that are trying to carve out a niche. They're being a disruptor. You know, they're trying to do something different. And it's the same if you look at your client portfolio. The agencies that you're working with, they've all got something different about them. Yeah. They don't fit that agency mold that what people think about when they think about recruitment. You know what I mean?
And I'm not in any of your big boy corporates. I'm not in them.
No,
I haven't tried. No. But like with that outside the box thing, it is young people now. They recognise they're outside the box, but instead of trying to get in, they just go, "No, I'm chilling here. I like where I am." So they're stopping trying to become something they're not meant to be. And like society struggles with change and identity and stuff, and there's a whole ream of conversation for another day there. But fundamentally, the difference generationally is people are just presenting themselves as who they are earlier.
Yeah.
And society either embraces it or struggles it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Look, these guys are able to, I mean, there's people out there that have got hundreds of thousands of followers on a TikTok account or a social media account that is dedicated to one really weird and obscure thing that they find interesting or humorous or a combination of both. But also so do the people that are following and liking and interacting with that person. Yeah,
who knew I like mukbangs? No. I'd say someone eating cheesy noodles, like you've got me. I mean, and there's place for everybody.
This is the thing. It's sort of like I always look at kind of like what works outside of our industry and how do we bring that into our industry, because we historically have always been very kind of regimented in no recruitment is this way, and I think we've got this opportunity now where you've got this young mindset of talent who want to be in recruitment. You know, here's the difference, right? If they're coming through an apprenticeship through you guys or whoever else is out there that's providing apprenticeships for recruitment, they're not saying, oh, I fell into it. They're choosing. They've gone, that sounds like an interesting job. I want to do that. Yeah. Now, if they've got a skill set that leans into social selling and marketing and content generation, that's only going to benefit you as a business, right? So, okay, if a recruitment business owner likes to KPI their client, their staff, and likes to measure the metrics on their output, which absolutely is the right thing to do, measure them on the number of posts they do as well. Measure them on the number of outbound messages they've sent via LinkedIn or videos that they've sent out. You know, just change yourself. It's
like I kind of not battle, but have conversations with other people in the industry and recruiters in general. I've got friends who work in recruitment as it is. Obviously, I'm on kind of sideline with apprenticeships, and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, but I should really do that, and I should do this." And I was like, "Look, if somebody said to you, I'm going to give you somebody that's going to do your job for you whilst you're doing your job, how does that sound?" You go, yeah. Okay, there's a login to social media. You drop a video in, that is doing your job while you're out. It's a way of maximising your reach, your impact and connectivity with people. And young people are damn good at that.
That's it.
Like they make
so
much money. Is that like, I've been here to say 19 years in education, 20 years nearly in education. And people go, oh God, people saying that I want to be a social media this and I want to earn money online. And there was this negative narrative in schools of their daydreaming and that. People are absolute ballers. I made $4,000 off TikTok last year with minimal effort. Like I just put reactive content out in line with what I wanted to do, and I made $4,000. And for tax purposes, I'm declaring it this year. Just saying. But young people who are strategic, they're finding the niche. They're doing exactly what you do with this podcast, which is dig down and find what works. They are making thousands.
That's it.
Whilst they're doing what they want to do, because that's what they drop a video and go shopping, and they're making money. It's crazy, and that talent.
And you can turn this though, right? Because again, we're examples of this. We will post on LinkedIn before we're going into a meeting or whatever. You know, I've put a post out about AI this morning and AI tech and that kind of thing, and I'm getting buzzes in my pocket, knowing that that's all LinkedIn comments and notifications and that kind of thing. You know, we're on our way to the studio, and I've got an inbound call from someone being like, "Oh yeah, Nitin, I've just spoken to my CEO. Yeah, we're good to go. How do we move forward?" That's the power of this. You put this stuff out there, you get on with the rest of your day, and then look, your rest of your day might not be shopping, right? And I'm not saying as a recruitment business owner, take on an apprentice, get them to do a load of social media stuff, and then send them out shopping. You know, they might then go, okay, now I'll do your traditional stuff, right? You want me to dial out 20 times today? I'll dial out 20 times today and get through to 20 voicemails if you think that's useful. But actually, that's not going to get me anywhere. The stuff that I've already done and put out there, that's going to start throwing rewards my way, right?
Yeah. And this is, I'm a firm believer that the whole thing around job descriptions and role profiles, there's kind of a place for it, but I think what it does is it puts boxes on companies and people, whereas actually if you were able to step out and go, okay, what needs to happen within this business collectively for it to be successful and move forward? What have I got? Where's my gaps? I want somebody that could fill that gap.
Yeah.
Rather than I want to get somebody that mirrors that person, because no two people are the same. Some of the best apprentice recruit, we're 3 years in now, so some of the first ones that I placed are now billing. Serious. They're making money. And the reason that they're making money is because the companies let them go in and take a little bit from everybody to create their own flavour. It wasn't be that person, be more them.
There was no training.
And the ones that have failed or left are the ones that have been tried to be pushed down a route.
Do you know what's really funny? Because I vaguely recall we had a very similar conversation to this on the podcast that shall not be named. And I was kind of like, we there was a point where I was kind of trying to make to you, which was that these apprenticeships are put together as this is what you'll learn and this is how you'll learn it and so on and so forth and I think you used the term, it was like industry experts and masterminds. And at the time I remember saying to you, like, but they're out of date, they don't know what, like, that worked then, it doesn't work now, and you're trying to fit people into boxes. And I remember it got slightly heated because there was somebody who didn't agree with that model, right? And it was like, no, it's got to be that way, it's got to be. And I think that's where we are now. If we fast forward sort of 3 years, where we are now is that you've got to go, look, I can teach you the skills of recruitment, yes, but actually more importantly, I need to explain to you the psychology and the process behind what is a recruitment process.
It's building a house, isn't it? You always need to lay the foundations.
Why does a client need to use you? Why? They could recruit themselves.
Yeah.
Listen, I could do my own VAT return. I don't, because the chances are I'm going to cock it up.
Yes.
So I use a specialist. I could send my own cease and desist letter to the next podcast that tries to copy the name, right? But I don't, because I can probably cock it up and do myself more damage. I go to the experts. And that's where this recruitment piece comes in, because if recruitment is seen as a professional service, you sell it as a professional service, and therefore your clients are buying that professional service. Now, how you deliver that professional service might be different with your business. These guys are more heavy on the social. These guys are very good at networking and events, and that's the thing that they do. These guys are very, very good at video content and virtual content, because the talent that we look for is global, and there's no way they can do, these two models, but that works for them. That's not to say that just because these guys aren't on the phones and they're not doing the traditional recruitment method that they're not performing. But God, they are.
I think when it comes to the rec sector, I think it's not always about the click rate.
No.
Because, analytics will help, and in some ways inquiries and click rates can be beneficial. But visibility and presence is key. And even when scrolling, if everything you put out has got your logo on it, subconsciously you're planting, and then when people see it, they go, that's how I did it. Like, I put posts out, and I had colleagues that would say to me, LinkedIn's a professional network, and and I'd go, I'm not putting my tea on there. I put something out. The information was informative. It was in line with what I do. Yeah, I had a chicken on my head, but I tell you what, I've been to meetings when I go, you know, with the chicken on your head, didn't you? Like, absolutely. I've not got a chicken on my head now, but you knew who I was because you'd saw something, it put a smile on your face, made you laugh,
made you memorable, whatever it is. It's those little marketing gems, isn't it?
And it is that is what young people are good at. They're good at being unique. They're good at putting an authentic turn on things where they can connect. There are young people that are lazy, but take away young people, there are people that are lazy. And if you look at any demographic, any age or bracket or whatnot, you're gonna have people that are lazy, that can't be asked, that haven't got the fire in the belly.
You're lying to yourself if you're going to say that only the Generation Alpha and Generation Z hires that you've made have turned out to be lazy. You're lying to yourself because everyone's made bad hires. Everyone's made hires where they're like, fuck that one up. That was not very good.
I did a piece of mapping. There was one company who continually said to me, we've tried apprenticeships before, it didn't work. I said, okay. And then it bugged me because they kept coming out and they were looking, and and it took nearly 2 years for them to finally say to me, let's go.
Go on then.
And what switched it for them was, I said, in the last 18 months since we've first had a conversation, how many apprentices have you sacked and how many normal staff have you sacked? And there was like this number, that number, and I just went, okay, work that across your staff force. What's it look like?
It's proportional, isn't it?
It's the same. Yeah. If not more normal staff have gone than apprentices. I went, so you're taking one bad apprentice and saying all apprentices are shit, but you're getting rid of 15 staff in the last 18 months because they haven't worked out. But you're not saying employees are shit. But it's a narrative. I did a business presentation the other day. It was at this big networking event, and everybody was up there, and they were doing the thing. They had something to put forward, and I was asked to do an apprenticeship pitch. And for me, I ain't going to stand there and bore people. And I literally told a story of a young lad who was an apprentice, the start, the middle, the end, everything in between, built it up. They were all in there listening to it. And then I went, that was me. And they literally went, huh? And I just went, but that's the thing. Like, you just see the newspaper, the knife crime, the this, the that, and you go, young people are bad. And they're going to be bad. Like, there's not a mentality anymore where it takes a town to raise a person or a child. Collectively, when I was a kid, and I'm not saying people should be clapping kids around the back of the head, but if I played my lip in the newsagent, the bloke was going back and my mum knew about it, and
that's a societal shift, isn't it? But you're absolutely right in that we almost have this expectation that people should be kind of oven ready when they come into the workforce, do you know? And I remember one of our apprentices, it was a first day, and she sat there, and it got to about 3 o'clock, and I was like, Sky, you're not going to have lunch today? And she was like, no one's told me to go to lunch. And I was like, you just come straight out of school. You don't know that you can just get up and go for lunch. You know, you don't know that there's not a timetable.
It's like
here.
neuro-linguistic programming. They're waiting for the bell to go off. So then it's that
and that was like right, that's on us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's not how dumb is this girl? No, how dumb are we?
We had
for not even thinking outside of that.
There was someone that there was a girl that was off absent, and we'd done some digging. They went, shouldn't be off this early and whatnot. She had a water infection because she just didn't get to the loo. Yeah. She was trying to wait for her breaks and all this, and she ended up with a water infection, and she was really poorly. And they were going to go, she's not reliable. We spoke about it. I'm like, oh. But then now that's a lesson learned for me, because I have conversations, and part of the risk assessment chat is, do you understand the starting point of young people, the things that they need to understand.
You need to. Here's one for you, and this is probably, well, I say probably, this is me being my, the biased journalist now, like not the biased, the unbiased, rather, Freudian slip. The work from home thing and remote thing. How many apprentices have you guys placed that are in remote recruitment businesses? And does that model work?
No. So I haven't placed in that because I think young people need to be exposed to the normal environment of work in practice to then enable them to step away, because I think if they step away they're always going to struggle to go into it. So I kind of think that people need to be exposed to your typical way of working to then be able to step back and then adjust to go back in. Because I do think, and we see it, there's a generation of young people and graduates and sixth form leavers that started work after the pandemic, straight into working from home. They struggle to think of work in any other way. Yeah. Whereas I think if you see what it could be and then apply
you can find what works best for you, and
they do have it. Like
it's,
some of the apprentices,
more fair and balanced approach.
The companies will go, it's your 20% off the job, 1 day a week studying. You've been here 6 months. We trust you. We know who you are. You know us. Yeah. Do it from home. If you need us, call us. That's relationships, isn't it? That's proving someone's kind of reliability, and you allow that to happen. If they take advantage of it, it gets removed.
I think if I'm being honest, I think the work from home and the office debate thing really is, I think, fundamentally comes down to most remote businesses that I know that I work with and mentor. They have a more of a mature workforce, and not an age mature, but I mean mentally mature and working experienced mature. Right, very few are hiring trainees and that kind of thing. From that perspective, so that kind of makes that does make sense. Let's talk about your ADHD diagnosis, man. What made you go, I think there's something wrong with me, I need to get a look at?
Ultimately, my life fell apart. Like relationship breakdown, move of house, everything just went to pot. And mental health in the gutter. And for years prior to that, doctors going, take these tablets. I was rattling. I was on so many mental health medications. And the thing that led to it was OCD, the obsessive thoughts and rumination and stuff. And I literally found a diagnosis tool online. No GP. All the conversations I've had since finding out, I've had previously with practitioners, and nobody said anything. And I did this screener, and I couldn't believe the questions it was asking and how anybody else could answer any other way. And I literally sent it out to so many of my friends, and a couple of them who I now look at and I go, yeah, you're riddled as well, come back and there was answering lower. But it just all started making sense. And I think where I felt lucky in some ways is when I was younger, I had stabilisers. So I had like good family upbringing and stuff. So they almost dealt with the repercussions. And then when they come off, you go into the performance mode. And I think so many of us neurodivergent people develop these masks where it enables you to operate in so many different things. And I'd never take that away. But the burnout, the mental health, the lack of sleep, the not backing yourself, the imposter syndrome, RSD all the time when you constantly think you said something wrong and you're ruminating and you go, did I do that wrong? Did I do that wrong? Like, it's monotonous and tiring. And what I found when I got older, I've become less able to consistently mask it. Yeah. And it opened up a whole new world for me. And I said to you earlier, the last 3 years, I've learned who I am more than I've ever. Because what I knew prior to that is what everybody else needed from me. Yeah. The last 3 years, ADHD, I got diagnosed twice, once private, once NHS, and then that flagged up autism. And I don't fit the conventional mould of autism, and that's the thing. Like, even in my head, when I think of autism, I think a girl with braces, pigtails, big earphones, rocking in a corner. That's the social stereotype. But all the mental health and anxiety and all stuff prior to that,
you're absolutely right.
That was the internal.
That's based on kind of education that we had when we were younger about these things.
But I work in education.
There's a clear lack of understanding, though, right?
I work in education. Do support plans with learners with ADHD, and I never made a connection to myself whatsoever.
So, do you think then that the trauma of relationship breakdown and having to move out and all the rest of it, do you think that led you down this path to sort of be like, I need to find either a root cause or something to not blame? I don't know, it just sounds like horrible, but like, do you think that's what it was, that you were looking for? How has this gone wrong? I need to be able to pinpoint this on, like, that's why this went wrong.
No.
So what was it then? Because something's obviously triggered you to be like, what's wrong with me?
I needed to know why I was experiencing what I was at the extreme levels.
Right.
And that's what it was.
But how did you know there were extreme levels, though? Do you know what I mean? Like, because for you, it's normality.
Because when you spoke to people and when you spoke about how you felt, and other people was go, oh, that's a bit much, or God, no, I didn't have that, and you kind of like, I kept trying to find somebody that could relate.
Yeah, so it was a search for some sort of answer and some sort of something to go.
I knew in my gut the medication I was on wasn't right. And it was multiple SSRIs, something to counteract that, something to sleep, something to this. That's all the doctors knew. Take that, this is causing that. And I'd totally depersonalised, I'd lost myself.
You're taking this, which is fixing this, but starting this.
Yeah.
Oh, and then take this. Okay, well, that fixes that and keeps that at bay, but now this new thing started. What the hell's this? Oh, just take this. Yeah.
And it's like, I think, I mean, it's drastic, but I don't mind. I'm at peace with that. I either had to find out why I was experiencing things the way I was and why I had, or I thought I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
And that was based on family history. Like, I look at my family now, and my family now look at themselves. Neurodivergency is 70% likely to be passed down. Yeah. In some form. And that wouldn't necessarily be someone's got autism, you get autism. It could be whether it's Tourette's, dyslexia, dyspraxia, dyscalculia.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. I have exactly that in my family. Yeah.
But in my family, there's a history of suicide, and when you've got that cursor on you, so you've got the gene, you've got the mental health, you've got all this, and you think I'm only one breakdown away from killing myself, something had to change, and that was the biggest change for me. It wasn't the curse of the family. It wasn't that. It was just undiagnosed neurodivergency. Yeah, absolutely that. And I think so many in my family will say that. Yeah. But strangely,
all the men in our family do it. It's fine. It's just a curse. It's a little gypsy curse we had put on us in the 20s.
We are just riddled. But as soon as you understand it and you lean into it rather than try and lean away from it, you become so much more at peace with who you are.
That's a big step in itself, though, isn't it? Right, that's a massive step in itself. To be able to go, okay, I think something's not right. I'll try and fix it.
I pushed back against the autism side of things for ages and ages and ages. I was like, no, and still, I'm probably still working on that. The thing that made me go, they're not lying, is ADHD medication. So for me, when I got to a certain amount of LVANs, it locked down my ADHD, and I was in the middle of town. I was going to a recruitment company in Warsaw, the same place I'd been hundreds of times, and I just meltdown, could not cope with the world, and I was like, I need a bit more ADHD back, because that ultimately,
this is it. I don't think I could function without the way my brain operates. You know, like, it freaks people out, and like, I've got a lot of love for Kalpesh Baxi, who's a friend and a mentor of mine, right? And he's incredible at what he does. And his advice to me is always the same. Like, you're doing too much. You're doing way too many different things. You need to slow down. You need to focus on something. And I struggle to explain to him that it's like, that's just not how my mind works. I can't. I hate focusing on just one thing. I need to have other things going on, because I get bored and disengaged. And that's my triggers. And that's my kind of like, sort of mental situation, is that I need these multiple plates spinning. For you, it looks like a fucking mess, or like, how can you even concentrate on one thing? For me, that's paradise. I've got something going on at all times, because I don't want to be alone with my thoughts, or whether it's because, you know what I mean, whatever it might be, but I need something going on. And sometimes it is, absolutely, you kind of, You don't realise that until you're trying to conform to normality and do the thing that normal people do. And you're like, well, this is what you want me to do? Like, this is normal?
It's like I say, with the medication, some people take it every day. I don't. I pick and choose when I need to do it. And if I'm in an office day and I've got shit I need to get done, and I know I need to get it done,
focus.
It works it enables me to hyper-focus on stuff that I'm never going to any other time.
I like that, yeah.
But I use it to my advantage. Like, I haven't took it today. I raw dogged because I know me. I'm chatting with you. I'm driving. I don't need it.
Yeah.
But like you mentioned about other people's perception of how you work, and I've deep dived into psychology and the brain and neurology and stuff. Fundamentally, what people struggle with, neurotypicals who don't have the same brain as us, is when they're in burnout, their way to recharge is by stopping and by sleeping and by having water. With our brains, self-care does not present the same as other people. Self-care is doing things that gives you dopamine rich activity that fulfills. So when you're doing something you enjoy, and other people like me, I host events, and people will go, how can you be at work all week and hosting events? I went, the events recharge me. My voice might sound tired.
That's my downtime.
But I am buzzing because it's a different, it's recharging the spoons.
Yeah.
And I totally understand
my
why
wife
people...
says this sort of stuff. She's like, they say that you shouldn't be scrolling on your phone before night time and this, that and the other. And like, there's days where I come in the bedroom and you've fallen asleep and like TikTok's still blaring in the background on your phone. And I'm like, that's my recharge. That is my wind down. And she's like, yeah, but like, it's just, do you not like, does that not ruin your sleep? I'm like, no, I wake up like fresh as a daisy and I'm good to go. Yeah. She wakes up and she wants nice and peace and quiet. I wake up, I'm like, music on my phone straight away. I'm like, blaring music from the shower. The kids are like, oh, fuck, dad's up. Like, like shit, this guy won't stop.
When was the first point that you realised that other people haven't got the monologue and the voice in the head?
This was actually not that long ago, about 3 or 4 years ago. It was at the office. We were talking about it, and as a team, and I was like, like, what do you mean? Like, I talk in my head. Yeah. And they're like, what do you mean you talk to yourself? Like, I was like, no, it's like there's another thing in there that talks, and like,
it's like the narrator.
Yeah. The other one, we figured that out at the same sort of time, was like, do you know when there are people out there, if I said like close your eyes and picture an apple,
I can't. I'm black.
It's just blank, right?
Yeah.
Oh, listen, I know what an apple looks like.
Yeah.
I know what an apple looks like. I could draw you a fucking apple, but if you close my eyes and ask me to picture one,
I think it's called.
Yeah. And these guys were like, what? You can't just like create an apple like in your mind? And I'm like, no, I can. I just can't see it. It's not there.
Like, I'm pro therapy. I see it as a bit of an MOT top up in the right place. And I went to one before, and they was doing this kind of mind relaxation. I'm like, you're on a beach, and I realise now it's because I'm riddled like with literal thinking. I'm like, I'm not. I'm lay on a bed in the middle of West Bromwich. I'm not on a bed. Like, just picture it. Just picture it. I'm like, I can't. But people seeing videos, words, all sorts.
Yeah.
Like, I've got friends that will, when they're trying to think about something, they've got a mental kind of log of videos, and they will go back to a clip. They will see something, and they will tell you what colour. It's crazy.
Yeah. I did one once. It was a group assessment thing. It was when we were doing like a Myers-Briggs assessment, right? And they're like, we're gonna split people up into groups based on an initial assessment. And I thought this was phenomenal. It was fascinating because I was in a group of 4. There's another group of 4, and they're like, we're gonna flash a picture up on screen. We want you to write down everything that you see, right? Everything that you can see. And so my table wrote things like, there's a fancy pattern around the side. The guy looks like he's from like the 1920s, a regal fella, perhaps of like money, hair's well kept, this, that, and the other. The other group were like, okay, the guy is this big. He's stood in this sort of like, landscape background, blah, blah, blah. This is what's there. The colours that we could see are these. And we're listing like literal things. And we were like, like it looks like maybe he's like a rich person because there's like a little bag of coins in the bottom there, and they wouldn't have that back then. So we're potentially
building this profile.
Yeah. And they were like, this is why we split you into these 2 groups, because your minds are completely different, and neither of you guys know about the other. Like, did you know that people look at something and they don't go, oh, that's a really nice picture? They look at it and be like, oh, that's fascinating. Oh, what about, and it takes them off into a tangent. And did you know that people look at something and just see, right, that's a guy, he's got a top on, it's black and the red collar and he's got short hair, you know, and factual things, and that's all they care about and that's all they see. I found that was like mind blowing. But
in the rec industry, like, I honestly think like ADHDers are powerful in this industry, and I also think autistics are powerful in the industry. In the right, I've had people reach out to me in this industry that know that they are, and they haven't told their work because they think the work will go, oh God,
some of the best recruiters I know have got ADHD. What I find really fascinating is this. You got these recruitment business owners that are like, I want everyone back in the office. I need to know what they're doing. I need to see what they're doing. And I'm like, you know, that's an autistic trait. You know, that's what that is. You want control, and you have lack of control, and that lack of control is bugging you to the point of like insanity. Because you know that the market is lower than it was, and that actually getting people back in the office isn't going to put the margins back up again and put the business back on the table and back on the board. You know that. Deep down you know that. But it's that lack of control. I can't see my team, and therefore I don't feel important enough, and I don't feel the you know, do you know what I mean? Whatever it might be. But I'm like, that's an autistic tendency in itself. But I don't think there's enough done within that kind of mindfulness and self-awareness piece within the industry, for people to be able to look at it and be like, actually, I have a team of 10 people, and rather than making all 10 people super billers that are amazing on the phone, amazing cold callers, amazing this, amazing that, I've got 10 billers. This person's great on content, this person's great at video, this person's great at running events, this person's great at cold email outreach, this person's great on LinkedIn outreach, this person's great on the phone, this person, all I've got to do is get them in front of a client, and the clients absolutely love them. That's what I've got. I've got a dynamic team of people who can do different shit.
There's one particular apprentice recruiter who I could think of, and again, I'm not going to name them because it wouldn't be fair to, but literally their employer said to me, I've never met anybody like them in their life. They're mad as a box of frogs. They're this, that, and so that. You put them on a phone, they are like militant. They ain't coming off it. But then if I asked them to do all the paperwork and all this and all that, you'd say they were crap at the job. So I know, give them the phone, give them a focus, give them a target, and then somebody else can pick the paperwork up, because that person that's doing the paperwork for them isn't going to bring in the sales this person did. Now, other companies would have gone, you're not the profile, you're not the full picture. And that's the difference between success, I think, is seeing somebody's strengths and playing to it. And that, again, back to the loop into young people, rather than seeing what you think you need someone to be, flip it, look at someone, reframe it and go, where can you add value?
Do you know what's really funny is there's this big focus in recruitment about, right now the buzzword is like, you know, we compare ourselves to a high performing sports team, right? That's how we position ourselves. That's how we kind of invest in our people and that kind of thing. Yet a lot of these guys have also still got that same mentality of, no, we want 360 billers, and they need to be good at everything. They need to be good at cold outreach. They need to be good at everything, right? You know, candidate sourcing and the lot. Can you imagine a football team where every player was interchangeable with each other? Oh, Paul, you're going to play up front today. I know you're good at right back, but you're also just as good at striker, so you're playing up front.
I've never been told I'm good at football. I feel chuffed. I feel fulfilled.
But like, do you know what I mean? Like, no, even your high-performing sports teams that you compare yourselves to have players who play in a particular position, and that's what their specialism is. And the teams are built around people's skill set. Yet we go, no, I need someone who's the total package. Yeah. And if you're not good at cold calling, then
that keeper is not going to be able to be a striker.
Yeah, if he can't go in and pop 10 goals in when I put him up front as well, then I don't want him. Like, well, you're going to miss out on some great talent.
But then you say to somebody with that mentality about apprenticeships, okay, you want a sports team. Where's your subs bench? Yeah. Oh yeah, we got this. Okay, yeah. How about your reserves?
Yeah, where's your youth team?
Because that's your apprentices.
Or your feeder clubs and
one day your player's going to go down injured, or they're going to go to another club. You're going to look at your bench and you've got no one to go there, and you're going to go, I tell you what though, I've been training this one for this day. Come on, now's your time to shine.
That's it. Yeah, exactly. If you're going to use that analogy, use it properly and use it thoroughly, or just drop it, right? But there you go. Mel, I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Honestly, I wish you nothing but success in all the things that you're doing. I know you've got a podcast that you're doing soon, the comedy stuff that you do, the shows, the hosting. You're about as busy as I am, and it's great to see.
I like it. Yeah. It is. And that's when I sit and speak to you, it's like, I get exactly where you're at, because you feed your soul from doing things you enjoy, and that's exactly the same with me. And it is like putting yourself in spaces that you enjoy.
Yeah, that's it. Know yourself, and that's it. But no, mate, honestly, this has been really fun. And really appreciate it.
Mate. Thanks for having me on.
My pleasure, mate. That's all from us. Thank you for liking, sharing, subscribing, doing all the cool shit that you guys do to keep us number one. New episodes drop every Wednesday and every Friday. We'll see you again next time. But I hope you've enjoyed this episode as much as I have filming it. Thank you.
And if you want an apprentice, phone me.
Conference thing, there's a couple of pictures taken and stuff, and I was like, fucking hell. I'm getting that old KSI barnet, and it's now starting to get a bit, you know what I mean? I might have to start wearing a bandana or something. I might have to literally go KSI with it.
See, I was booked to go to Turkey just before COVID hit. So I was about to have a transplant. That was when I had a Britney moment. I was booked to go to Turkey, and I was going to have an air transplant, and then the world shut down, and I never booked it up.
That's hilarious. Right, I'll clap us in and let's get going. Tristan's going to be so confused because he'll be like, do you want to keep this bit in or not?